everyone, and welcome back to the Storybox. Last time on this series, it was that Izumi, people thought she died, she ended up in a different world, and in the other world, she basically learned that she has a quirk, she's spiant empress. Most information about her you can read on screen, so if you want to do that, you can go ahead and pause. Uh, she made her colony in another world, her spiant colony, and well, basically, she eventually found a way to go back to her home world. And there, she enrolled in the entrance exam for UA. She doesn't really remember why she ever wanted to go into UA in the past because, well, she was really young when she ended up in this world, so yeah. Oh yeah, I also did that. Her mother had died in a car crash, I think it was. And well, I actually haven't really done anything with Hisashi yet. I might do something in the future, I don't know yet. He might be there later, or he just might not exist in this universe. Who knows? Well, I mean, he will. You get what I'm saying. Anyways, she passed the entrance exam with flying colors because she literally decapitated the zero pointer with a single punch. If I remember correctly, I had done it that she saved Jiro, I think it was, from the zero pointer. So, so she, well, there's the problem of her getting the letter for the UE entrance exam. So let's just say that you could also put down the the number, the street number of the local post office and go collect it there. Let's say that is how she obtained her letter that she made it into UA. Yeah, she goes to the post office, get the letter, goes back to her local colony because if you remember, she also made a second colony in this world, the My Academia world. There, she proceeds to go to, well, because she made her own special chambers in the colony where the others aren't really allowed into, private chambers, I guess. There isn't any lighting because, well, she can see in the dark, so there's not really any need for lighting. So when when the hologram does come out of the letter, it's really bright throughout the room. It's saying like all might saying, "Congratulations, young Izumi, on making it into UA High Class 1A. Why am I here, you ask? Simple. I am going to be teaching at UA as a teacher." In her head, Izumi thinks, well, no, duh, otherwise you wouldn't have said, "I'm going to teach at UA." Uh, All Might proceeds to tell her point. The hologram of All Might proceeds to say how many points she got. You got more than 100 hero points. Once people get 100, we stop counting. Izumi thinks that's quite understandable. As for rescue points, you got 50 rescue points. I don't remember how many Deku got in canon, so I'm just gonna say 50. That she got 50 for rescuing Zero. And your UA uniform should be arriving in a couple of days. It says as recording, holographic recording, then stops. Izumi goes a couple of days later to the post office to collect her uniform. She realizes it's a bit restricting, she finds personally, but that's just her personal opinion, so it'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be fine. It's restricting, but she'll make it work. Then let's skip ahead to the first day of UA, where she enters the UA building and and is trying to look for the 1A classroom. Once she does find a classroom, she thinks like, wow, this door is big. Are there maybe giants go here to school here? Maybe trolls. Maybe cave trolls. Whatever. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Trolls and cave trolls don't exist in this world, so it's probably not. Probably just someone with some kind of a giant quirk, she thinks. As she proceeds to open the door, she hears, well, yelling. Ida's yelling at Parker to take his feet off the desk. And that's when Parker says to him, "Shut it, Four Eyes," and well, the whole stick butt conversation, and don't feel like repeating it all. You get what I'm talking about. As then Barker sees Izumi, and he's like, "You were the one that saved me that day. I didn't need your help, weakling." As Izumi, after hearing this, just face palms and says, "You were about to be turned into a meat. You were about to be turned into that guy's skin. And your quirk, in fact, was only making it worse for the heroes to help you. You were doing the opposite of being fine. You were the opposite of fine," he says a month ago. Then, uh, she, of course, immediately notices that Aizawa is there, that he's just hidden. Where, well, in the anime, he was in the hallway at the other wall, opposite of the door, but I don't know about the manga. So let's just say that he is asleep under his desk because that that's the place hardest to be seen, and therefore it's also the best place is for him to sleep because it's Aizawa. Caterpillar Man. Um, then Ida walks up to Izumi and says, "Oh, you're that superior student to me." Izumi says, "I don't. You shouldn't go ahead and call people superior than yourself. But yes, I am superior to you, whether we like it or not. Whether you or me likes it or not." And then she proceeds to choose a desk and sits down. As Jiro walks up to her and says, "Thank you for saving me that day, Miss Izumi," because if I remember correctly, they did tell each other their names when Izumi brought her to the recovery girl's office. As what exactly do I do? Oh yeah, then Aizawa stands up and says, "Is everyone done talking? Because if you are finally done talking, put on these PE uniforms and head to the training grounds." That's when Uraka says, "What about orientation? This is UA. We do things differently than normal schools. If you want a normal school experience, then get out of my class." Is that what it says? And then says, "I expect you on the field within 10 minutes." As Izumi has already gotten up and started walking out the door. And then when they get to the field, it's when they get to the field that, as I was, Izumi, you had first place. You go. As now Bakugo, when he heard Jiro earlier call her Izumi, he started to put the pieces together, and now he's already realized it. So he's thinking, how did she, first of all, survive? She's supposed to have died. And second of all, how did she make it into UA? So, yeah. Uh, uh, Izumi catches the ball that Izawa threw to her as she proceeds to ask, how far do I need to throw it? Izawa says, as far as you can. As Izumi says, okay, I'll just throw it at full power. As she throws it at full power, the wind pressure creates a bit of a wind gust around everyone that blows some people even a bit back. Aizawa is a bit surprised, but also not too surprised. After all, he did see her decapitate a zero-pointer with relative ease. As the ball flies very, very far. I don't know how far yet. Uh, Let's say that she threw it so far it ended up in an ocean. I could say she threw it to space, but well, that all depends on what angle she would have thrown it. She's definitely capable of throwing it to space, but let's say she didn't. But throwing it in space, even with her strength, you still need to aim correctly because if you aim too low, the ball is not gonna make it to space. If you throw it too horizontally, it's not gonna make it to space, even with that strength. So yeah, she purposely made it not go to space. So plus, I don't know if she could throw it to space, but whatever. As as Ella says, wow, that's pretty far. As some people ask, how far? As I was like, you don't need to know that information. You don't need to know that information. And and then Barker says, so it was barely. So she even barely got it. So she threw it very close. As I was like, no, it's a little hard for the thing to calculate the exact distance because it landed in an ocean. What ocean? Which ocean? The Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, she threw it all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. Which is pretty far, ain't it? As you know, the typical thing that happens of Bakugo running at Izumi, saying how is quirkless someone like you ever going even this power, even have this strength, yada yada yada. You know the typical thing as Awa stops him, tells him to get back in line. As Bakugo throws the ball, and he gets it as far as he got it in canon, let's just say that, which I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it was around somewhere between 400 and 500, maybe a bit over 500. I don't remember the exact number. But yeah, he gets it as far as in canon. So, then the following tests happen where she basically beats everyone. The only one that she did not win was the speed. Because, well, Ida has literally engines in his legs. She's still fast, faster than another human being, but not quite engine-powered speed. Also, sorry for the constant cracking, but I'm just trying to find a comfortable spot. So, yeah, she basically gets first place because she gets it overall first place. Oh yeah, but spiant empresses, something I literally just now came up with. Spiant empresses also have wings, very powerful wings. So she was not able to beat Ida because she didn't really use the wings, but like in high jumps, she kind of quickly made the wings grow out of her back. Because yeah, when she's in her human form, she can make specific parts of her body transform into her spiant form. but at will, but to specific, but only specific parts. I mean, technically, she can transform her entire body, but that's then a transformation, not a. That's a full transformation, not a partial transformation. Yeah, she makes wings go out of her back and easily beats the jumping test. But yeah, just, time goes by and like somewhere along the week, because a lot of people think it happened the same day, which is not true. The Heroes for Villains test was not the same day as the first day. Those were not the same days. Same with the USJ. It was not a day right after any of those. It was also a week or two later from the Hero vs. Villains. So, and again, and how do I know that? Well, for one, if I remember correctly, the UA Sports Festival was supposed to if I remember correctly, happened about in the middle of the school year. So, at least if I remember correctly, it happened about in the middle of the school year. Maybe not exactly, but definitely not right at the beginning. Because they were all people who just got into school. They're not going to be able to do anything impressive yet. So, yeah, it wouldn't be interesting. So, next is the Heroes vs. Villains test. Where it is. Let's just go with canon teaming up. The ship is still Izumi and Jiro. That's still happening, but the teams will be like in canon. It will be Izumi with Uraraka against Bakugo and Ida. Izumi figured that Bakugo would probably go after her because he for some reason had some kind of beef with her. She doesn't know why, because again, she was really young when it all happened, so she doesn't remember Bakugo. She remembers someone pushed her down a cave, but she don't remember who or even what they look like. So, the so yeah, the test goes as well. So who Izumi and actually, you know what? Let's say that it was Izumi and Uraraka who are the villains in this time, and Bakugo and Ida who are the heroes. As Izumi just tells Uraraka to stay by the just to go to the top of the roof and that she'll deal with it. And for her to just stop them from trying to, well, come in from the outside. Because a bomb was on the top floor. Not on the roof, but the floor right beneath the roof. So let's say that she just she made Uraraka make sure that they can't come up to fly at the outside, can't get to the bomb via the outside. It has to go through the inside. In the meantime, what Izumi does is actually basically summon some of her minions to basically infest the halls, making them not be able to come through very easily. Basically turning it into a labyrinth or a dungeon, call it what you want. And they, of course, covered the cameras in webs, because she kind of wants to keep the ants, the spiants a bit of a secret. Again, she doesn't want to reveal all of her cards. So yeah, they cover all the lighting, they cover all the lights, cameras, so no one can really see what's happening. As then, and she summoned quite a bit of them, quite a lot. So a lot, not as many as are in one of her colonies. Compared to one of her colonies, or the amount she summoned was basically none, but enough to very quickly infest the entire building. As Bakugo and Ida proceed to head inside the building, where they very quickly notice that there's something sticky. They can't quite tell what, Once they touch it, it kind of gets stuck, and once Bago creates some small explosions to create some light, they see that it's webs. A lot of webs. As Bago and Ida are constantly, basically, the ant and the spine start not hevel. Basically, the ants themselves won't really do all that much. They simply were sent to cover the entire building in webs, yeah, the inside at least. Then Izumi sent them back to the colony. But she, however, she did make part of her body transform into her spiant empress form. So she's got like the grabby thingies from both ants and spiders. Like ants have more ones that are a bit horizontal, while spiders have more vertical ones. It's a little. I'm doing most of it with my hands, but you can't see it. Uh, if you look up spiders, they kind of have like weird tooth like things above their mouth that go a bit up and then down. While ants have those that go then a bit out and then in. Grabby thingies. I don't really know how else to explain to describe them. She has kind of both. So she makes those appear, her antennas, and also, of course, grows her second pair of limbs. Well, technically, both her other sets of limbs. Because the thing is, she has a forearm. Let's say she has two arms by her shoulders. She has two legs. But she grows more ant or spider-like limbs from her back. Although a bit more the side of the back, not right on the backpack. The backpack is where the wings are, which she doesn't really use right now because they're not really of any use in the hallways. But of course, she can see in the dark. In her human form, she can't see in the dark unless she transforms her eyes into that of the spiant form, which she also did right now. As she proceeds to make some creepy sounds with her mouth because that she can make as a spiant. As Bago and Ida, once they make it to the, let's say that there's ground floor, let's say 5 floors in total. So ground floor, first floor, second floor, which is the middle, third floor, fourth floor, which is where the bomb is, and then the roof. So yeah, let's say that. So they make it to the second floor. And that's when you hear like sounds. I can't really mimic it. I have a specific sound in my head, but I can't really mimic it. I can't really mimic it. Dang it, that's annoying. It's gonna annoy me. But anyways, as Bakugo and Ida are both freaked out a little about this, and it doesn't help that they have limited light, only using very small explosions that Bakugo makes in his hands. That's also the only thing they have to get rid of the webs, which Izumi purposely used weak webs because, yeah, she doesn't want to go all out. She just wants them to know that that they should not mess with her. As people in the booth who are watching this are kind of all confused because, again, cameras covered. So they don't know what the heck is going on. As then, Ida is behind Bakugo because, well, Bakugo's the one who makes light, so it makes sense that the one with light goes in front. But Izumi is actually climbing on the ceiling right above them. So when they pass right past her, she grabs Ida and makes him stuck against the ceiling using webs. So yeah, Ida's stuck out on the ceiling with webs. His mouth's also covered. He he's able to feel that something's touching him, but he does not know what it is. He can't see it. His eyes are also now covered. His nose isn't because, well, she doesn't want him to suffocate, so he can still breathe, but he can't make any sound or yeah. As Barco continues, and then he says, "Hey, four glasses. Do you have the don't you do you have the feeling like something's watching us?" As he doesn't get a response. Four eyes, four eyes. As he turns around and sees that Ida's gone. Oh, dang it, come on, four eyes. You really think you're that much better than me that you don't need my help? Whatever. Whatever. You can do whatever you want. As he continues and finally makes it to the fourth floor where the bomb is. Sees the bomb, rushes to it, and that's when he gets stuck on something. Specifically, webs, strong webs that are nearly invisible. As he tries to worm himself loose, he quickly realizes that these webs are a lot stronger than the other ones. As he then hears something saying, "You know, you really were a fool to just come in rushing here unprepared. Though it is realistic, the heroes very often have to rush into a villain's nest to unprepared, not knowing everything. But the least you could do is try to keep a better eye on your partner." As the Bakugo is, though he's stuck in the webs, he tries to turn around, doesn't work. But as then Izumi goes in front of him and slowly lowers herself using webs from the ceiling as Bakugo sees her. Because in that room, the windows were not covered in webs. She wanted to terrify him purposely. As she lowers herself in front of him and kind of terrifies him to the point where he just goes unconscious. It's like when Izumi's like, I didn't even start. I didn't even start yet. Oh, come on. Of course, the camera's camera is locked. The sound can't be picked up, so the people in the booth hear things. So then they hear Izumi say, "So yeah, sir, I restrained both the heroes. Wako's unconscious. Ida's just stuck. Do I need to bring them out to prove it?" That's all my it says. Sure, but I do believe you. But if you really, but you bring them out. Everyone says, everyone says, okay. As as all my proceeds to say, villains win. Uraka simply floats herself down because hey, why the heck not? And that's when they see a webbed Bakugo and Ida be lowered from the roof, well, out of the window on the higher fourth floor, and see this human bug thing come out. So they're like, "What is that? Is that a villain?" As Izumi starts to retracting her bug things, like, "Oh, sorry, forgot to retract those." As he starts to turn human again, and when they'll notice that that's Izumi, and she has webs and other weird traits. And just now really thinking, I thought she had a super strength quirk. Well, what is her quirk? As Alma proceeds to ask Izumi, "Girl, what is your quirk?" As she says, "That's for you. That's for me to know, and you want to know." As everyone sighs, and this is when, of course, they ask what they did right and what they did wrong, and Momo then says that they did that the heroes did not really have any time to prepare, like Izumi said, but they should be able to stand up to be capable of standing up to any situation, even if the heroes should know when they should run and when they should fight. In this case, they should have run because it was only two heroes against the whole villain nest, against essentially a hive of villains that they could run into. They thought there were only two, but it happens quite often that heroes, when they bust into a villain hideout, they discover that there are a lot more villains than they had originally anticipated. It's not unusual. But then Momo proceeds to ask Izumi, but how were you able to block the cameras? Izumi says, webs. What? I webbed the entire. What? I webbed the entire interior of the building. The entire interior of the building was and still is, in fact, covered in webs. That's how I was able to restrain their movements and also be aware of where exactly in the building they are. They don't know. That's how spiders find out where their prey are in their web. When the prey falls on one of the strings of the web, the string tightens up. So that's how the spider feels it. It feels the string tightening up, and that's how he knows where the prey is. I had to use a similar tactic. As for Bakugo, and the Momo says, yes, but you didn't use very good teamwork. Yes, I did. What do you mean? I had Uraraka go to the roof so that she could make sure that they don't come up through the outside. Because my whole plan was based on them coming in through the inside. Would be been a problem if they came up through the outside. So I had Uraraka purposely make sure that they don't come up through the outside. It's also a strategy you should always use when a hero, when there's a villain or multiple villains or heroes. In this case, it was heroes, but normally you should use your villains. When there's some multiple villains, you should make sure that you can lure them into your trap and make sure that they will fall into your trap. Because if you just rely on luck, it's going to be very unlikely to actually fall for the trap. That's why you need to use either bait, you either need to use bait or need to scare them. Well, scare. I use it to scare. I say scare them. It's not really scare them. You have to either lure them into the trap or force them into the trap. I see. I see, All Might says. That was a pretty good tactic. As the following things happen, like always, like they usually do. As someone in the booth then proceeds to ask, it's the frog girl. I don't Froppy. I know their nicknames better than their actual names. As as Froppy proceeds to ask Izumi, so you have some kind of animal quirk? Izumi says something like that. What type of animal is it? Is it an ant spider? Because Izumi says something in between. Something in between. I don't know a species like that. Makes sense. Most people don't know of this species. I didn't even know about it until, well, my quirk awakened. Oh, really? When did your quirk awaken? Right after I was pushed down a cave by the person who I thought was my best friend and who tried to kill me by pushing me down a cave. As Bakugo hears this and now is kind of sweating and a little afraid, though he won't admit it. Because, well, it's Bakugo, but he's scared because now he's sure that really is his childhood friend Izumi that he tried to kill. Yeah. Let's hope she never recognizes me. Yeah. That's what Bakugo's thinking. Though, when Izumi said that earlier, she didn't. She sounded like she still had a grudge, but she doesn't really have a grudge anymore, because if she had stayed there in her world and that never happened, her quirk might have never awakened. So she does, in the truth, actually should need to thank them, because thanks to them, she got her quirk. Her quirk might have never activated, and she had stayed there. She had never encountered that. So that's how the heroes versus villains go. And that is when, well, then a couple of weeks later, say, we're going to the USJ tomorrow. As Izumi says, do you mean Universal Studios Japan? No, the unforeseen simulation joint. If we were going to Universal Studios Japan, I would be a lot more. I would be even in an even worse mood. Why would you be in an even worse mood? Too loud. This place is loud. Well, that's even louder. I guess that makes sense. So yeah, the next day they get all on the bus wearing their hero outfits. Oh yeah, I guess we actually wanted to come up with a hero outfit for her. Well, on her hero outfit, let's say she leaves an openings on her back for her. Well, her bug-like limbs and her wings. She leaves space for those so that, well, yeah, so that they don't rip through the, yeah. Uh, the USJ thing happens. They go there. As Froppy once again asks Izumi about her quirk, and she says, "If you were pushed down a cave, how did you actually survive?" Well, my quirk kind of apparently activated somewhere along in the middle when somewhere after I went unconscious, and it ended up performing healing things. Apparently, spiants have very high regeneration rate. Ah, I see. As and then that's when Bargo begrudgingly goes to Izumi and asks her, if you're pushed in a cave, do your parents know you're alive, or do they think you're dead?" As she says, one, well, my dad never cared. So far I know, my dad didn't care for me. Never met him. And two, my mother died when I was still really young in a car accident. So no, they don't. First of all, that know that I that I that I died and actually survived. And nor do they need to know, because my dad never met him, so I don't know him, so it doesn't really matter to me if he knows or doesn't know. I see. As he asks, have you ever got revenge on that childhood friend of yours? And she says, no. And I'm also not planning on it. And he says, why are you not planning on it? I mean, he tried to kill you. He said, yeah, but if they never did that, my quirk might have never activated. So, in truth, I should actually be thanking them. Because if they never did that, my quirk would have never activated. And because my quirk never activated, I would never be here. So, in truth, it's thanks to them that I'm here now. Ah, I see, he says as he goes back to sit down. As the bus finally arrives at USJ, Uraka fangirls over 13. As I think it was Kirishima who said, "Whoa, you guys even have fake villains here." As 13 turns around, all confused, and I'm like, "Those aren't fake; those are real. How did they even get in here?" As he tries to call UA, but the reception's blocked. So there's probably a signal can just probably an check user who's capable of disrupting the signal. Well, you all stay here, he says as he goes down and starts beating up villains. Kurigiri goes, the usual thing. Her injured 13, sends everyone to different parts. As however, Izumi was able, though Izumi was a bit strange. For some reason, Kurogiro just felt like for some reason he needed to make her be beaten up by the Nomu, so he sent her straight away to Shigaraki and Shigeru and the Nomu. The Nomu Shigaraki told the Nomu to kill the girl. As the Nomu threw a punch, and Izumi just catches the punch. That's when she asks Shigaraki, "Did you know that ants can lift 10 times their own weight?" Shigaraki says, "No, and why should I?" "Well, I can lift 25 times my own weight, and it's even and the amount's even increasing." As she proceeds to literally pick up Nomu and fling him into the sky, jump up, and proceeds to throw rapid punches at him. How does she do? Like typical like JoJo thing where like rapid punches being thrown. How does she do that? Simple. She grew extra limbs on her back and threw punches, and she stays in the air by using her wings. She's throwing many punches at Nomu, injuring it heavily. As that happens, Nomu regenerates, as usual. He's like, regeneration. However, that counts on physical things. But regeneration counts more with healing. Does not necessarily mean against illnesses. As she proceeds to, grow a stinger out of her back and stings Nomu and injects a high amount of venom into him. As Nomu begins recoiling in pain, and it doesn't die, but the venom was strong enough to completely paralyze it. Because yeah, that's actually what ants' venom do. First of all, it's venom, and second of all, it paralyzes. That's one of its main functions to actually do. It's meant to paralyze. Then it was not completely paralyzed and on the ground. Also, here Ida never actually escaped. However, All Might want to call Aizawa to say that he'll be there in a couple of minutes, but no one would pick up, which put the heroes on alert. So Izumi looks over to Shigaraki and says, "You also want some?" Holding up her stinger, aiming it at him. And he's like, "How dare you? How dare you kill my Nomu?" And then Izumi says, "What was that, for?" "Oh, I know, because you saw what my stinger did to the Nomu, so you were actually thinking what would be the right course to do, but then you let your anger take over you, which was in the end a bad decision because this venom is strong enough to paralyze a Nomu. Strong enough to paralyze a Nomu, it might do worse to you." As she retracts her stinger, and it retracts completely back into her body, detransforming, I guess you could say. As Kurogiro says to Shigaraki, "Our villains are being beaten by all the students. Our villains are being beaten by all the students and by their teacher, and the Nomu's even gone. We need to retreat." As Shigaraki says, "Fine. You won this time, creepy bug girl, but it'll be your only win against a league of villains." As they proceed to retreat, other heroes arrive. Medical help gets there because, the students may have been able to fight back, but the Logic Speak would have still gotten injured. But because this time, Aizawa didn't get beaten by the Nomu, so he's still fine. Yay. Yay. Let's see. me see. What was I gonna do next again? Yeah, so that happens. That's technically in normal series would be end of season one, but here who knows how far it is, and I don't really care. As Nezu's, there's a trader in UA, and there has and we should probably consider building dorms. As for those who actually watch Canon Show and remember things, the dorms were only implemented after the training camp arc. Though the idea, if I remember correctly, was actually started getting implemented here when it started coming up with the idea. But so yeah, but first, before we build the dorm, we should probably probably get a license to house students on campus. Because I'm pretty sure in real life, for school to do that, they probably need some kind of a license. So yeah, that'll be what they're trying to do now. As next is the sports festival. Yeah, the sports festival is next. But that I'll leave that for next part because it's been going on for quite a while. So that will be end of part 2 of Izumi the Spiant. So yeah, see you all next time. Goodbye. Oh wait, before we go, I remembered something that I want to ask. I am planning on making another story, but it will be either. And this one will, first of all, this one will be in a sci-fi setting. So, but what I want to know is, do you all want it to be also a MHA, a My Academia fan, story, but that's simply sci-fi? Do you want it to be one based on Halo, or my own original thing? Or if you have any other suggestions, feel free to say those as well. But it will be sci-fi. I can say that. I'll also put the question down in the comments. So goodbye, everyone.